Thanks to Richard Goff. Thanks to Lance Aldridge, Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac sponsoring our Baylor segments. JJ Joe, who's been so patient with us. We've been asking him a lot to come on because we love his insight and he's good at it. And also that's why he's the color analyst of Baylor Radio. All right, JJ, they look really good on offense against West Virginia. What does Brigham Young do, in your opinion, that will either allow Baylor to do some things they've done well or struggle?
Well, Smoak, thanks for having me on, man. You know, I always love it. It's great to talk Baylor football. Yeah, I mean, I think last week's game plan was fantastic. I liked the way Coach handed the ball to Gary and told him, hey, look, we're going to probably win with you or lose with you. And that was I think, the big change from Oklahoma State. But in any case, I think this week, you have a very experienced defense. They do have a few young players that sub in here and there, but these guys are big. They're physical. They'll go some man. I think early Smoak, the offensive game plan is going to have to be, really trying to make sure you use your edge guys. I mean, I really think Treston out of the backfield, Taekwon, of course, RJ, and we haven't seen much of him, but he's still there. Drew, those guys have to have good games, and Gary has to have a good game. Throw on the ball, kind of loosen these guys up a little bit. So we'll see, but that's kind of my thought early on.
How impressed were you with the fact that they're able to use the passing game to set up the run as opposed to the other way around early in that game? Because against Oklahoma State, they just could not break themselves away from running the ball, even though it wasn't working.
Yeah, it was interesting. I just think that the plan was different. And I said it, I think, to you guys last week, that I think that, I don't say they were ready. I just want to say that they just this is the first time this offensive staff has faced what I would call what a true Big 12 defense is. It's a bunch of hybrid guys that play downhill, they play fast, they try to plug with numbers. Iowa State was not a good comparable. I would say it'd be a better comp for these guys than the guys we normally see. So I think that they learned a lot. And I think I said that then. I think Coach Grimes, Coach Mateos learned a ton against Oklahoma State. You hate that it had to be an L, but then I thought you saw the fruit against West Virginia, because West Virginia is very similar. They're going to play very similar to Oklahoma State. They're going to have the hybrid guys that are going to play downhill on early downs. They're trying to get you in second and third and long. And then they want to dance with you on the edge, or they want to, drop in coverage and make you throw against 8. So they did a great job of early, like I said, giving the ball to Gary. I think I went through something, in an article, Ashley at 6'6" and 365 is like, he did a great job of saying in the first 10 plays, Gary had to make a decision on 60% of those plays. And then that really loosened West Virginia up, kept them off balance. And I think that just got the momentum going.
JJ, you mentioned Drew Estrada in passing. We've finally been able to see him the last couple of weeks fully healthy, and he's become a top 3 receiver on this team, I think, along with RJ, even though RJ's last couple of weeks have been quiet, and as well as Taekwon, who's really exploded as of late. What does Drew bring to the table in your mind? What have you seen, and how impressed have you been with just his role through these last couple of games?
Yeah, Drew, I didn't know much. When a guy goes to Dartmouth, you figure he's a little bit smarter than everybody, but maybe not as athletic as what you think until you watch him play. And then you see him play, and you see that I think he's faster than most people think. And then I think he is more athletic, or more, I guess you could say, bouncy than people think. He is a receiver that you can tell skill-wise has really developed his skill. I think the best one, and Ricky pointed this out when we were on the air, that he had one pass that I think Gary really underthrew him. It was a fade route or a seam route that looked like a fade. And he kind of underthrew him a little bit, but Gary kind of threw it outside and a little bit. He had to slow down. And instead of flipping his head and kind of trying to get a different perspective, he slowly throttled down and just widened. He had enough room to widen and fade, and the ball hit him like right where it needed to hit him. That's professional wide receiver play right there. And so this young man, I think he's a 6th-year guy, I think, and he's athletic. He knows how to play receiver. He attacks the ball, and he's going to start getting attention, which I think then will free up and open up Taekwon and RJ more.
They have continued the defense to force turnovers. Last week, Brigham Young coughed it up, 2 or 3 times, and that was with fumbles. Your thoughts about how Dave Aranda's, even last year's team when they were 2-7, they continue to thrive on forcing turnovers no matter who they're playing.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I would doubt BYU turns it over that much. They're just not one of those teams on Saturday, tomorrow. But, it was kind of interesting. I watched that tape, and it was a big fumble, like you said. I mean, It was kind of weird. The ball was coming loose. It was a little wet, so I think that played a little bit into it as well. But for Coach Roberts and Coach Aranda, I mean, it's really a blessing to have these kind of football players, too. When we had the 19 team and lost a lot of those young men, especially those guys up front, the 20 team actually played decent defense, I thought, gave up a little bit more than we would want. But they did turn people over. And I think when you have the type of players we have, I mean, I think when you have a Terrell Bernard, a Jalen Petrie, you got JT Woods, Christian Morgan, and you got guys coming, you got Ashton Logan, even you also have, Matt Jones, my good buddy Matt Jones. Those guys run fast and they bring intention when they come, and they are around the football and they're swiping at it. So when you have a defense of veteran guys that play with that kind of speed and tempo, they're going to get turnovers just because they're going to be where they need to be when the ball pops loose. Against most college teams, as long as you don't give them 80-yard bombs and they score, they'll eventually give you a chance at getting that ball loose. And Coach Aranda and Coach Roberts' team, group, they've done a great job at that.
Baylor, Brigham Young, 2:30 tomorrow at McLean Stadium. JJ, there seems to be a really cool build-up for this game because of the Big 12, because Brigham Young is ranked in the top 20, and it was higher than that. And what Baylor might be on the cusp of getting right back, and if they do win, most likely inside the top 25 or top 20. Do you feel that as well?
I do. It's a great build-up. I love it. Number one, we've never hardly played BYU. When was the last time? 84? Yep. 83? I think I was in middle school, junior high, I think, man. So that's great. And they had two competitive contests. I think we won once and they won once. And then, like you said, the Big 12 kind of backdrop is fantastic. So we figure we'll start seeing these guys, or not these specific players, but, this team quite often. So it's great. And, I hate that they lost, but they are a top 20 team. They're solid. I think people feel like Baylor is right on the cusp. The Oklahoma State game, I think, is a respectable loss. This BYU game, I think, is going to be one of those non-conference litmus tests of, okay, are these guys really for real? And can we think that they're going to really make some noise in the Big 12, even though this is the Big 12 game? So, man, I'm excited, and I just pray these guys play, both teams. I don't want anybody hurt. Just play your best game, and let's see a great football game. And I know Baylor's favored by like 6, but man, I see this thing being pretty tight. I just looking at the tape and looking at stuff, and these teams know each other well because of the coaches. It's yelling that it's going to be a 3-point, maybe 4 or 5 point game. It seems to be close.
JJ, I like Baylor's chances, trying to contain Algier, and maybe I'm off on that, but it seems to me that BYU is going to want to air it out. That just seems to make sense. And this defensive secondary, we really have not seen them tested all that often throughout the year so far, where a team's really just attacked them. Could you see that, being on a strategy of BYU? And what do you think of this secondary? Looks like Kalen Barnes could be back after missing the last couple of games. But what have you made of what you have seen from the secondary? Do you think they're ready for the challenge?
I really think they are. But I'll be honest with you, I'm concerned. And I know you guys have seen what I've seen. They have some tall guys. They're not burners, as a lot of people will say. When people tell you that, you think they're slow. These guys are not slow, right? They're not slow. Gunnar Romney, Neil Powell, those guys are not slow. Isaac Rex, but they're not, Taekwon.
Right.
But they're 6'4", they're 6'6", they're 6'2", they're 6. The tight end is Isaac Rex. I'm sorry, but they're just huge dudes. So. It's going to happen. I got a quarterback in Jaron Hall that's back. He played pretty good last week. If I get somebody matched up against Raleigh, what I'm going to do? I'm going to give him a chance. If Baylor doesn't provide help with Christian or JT, I think tomorrow's game defensively will really be dictated by how well JT and Christian play. A lot will be talked about up front. How does Siaki play? How does Gabe Hall and all those guys play? But I really think those safeties will be put in a crux. They're going to see that play action. They're going to see that run action, and they're going to be tempted to get involved in the run action. And they're going to have to help on the edge. When you got a guy that's even 6'1" going against a guy 6'4", or a guy 5'8" going against a guy 6'4", and the quarterback knows how to throw it to him, those safeties have to be ready to help, and they got to read stuff quickly. So I'll be interested. I expect those two to play well.
JJ, going into you want to win any game, obviously, whether you have 5 games in a row coming up, conference game coming up, whatever it is. But how much winning the way they did against West Virginia and finding a way if they can beat Brigham Young, then have an off week to then regroup, maybe decompress, fix a couple of more things up. You then have Texas at home. All these games in October have either been home or off weeks. How much does that help if you can win going into an off week, or does it matter?
Yeah, I'm sure you talk to a lot of guys. It would be the perfect thing for this team to win. It wouldn't be a killer because, I mean, like if you lose the game, it's still not a conference game. You're still, from a conference perspective, in the same position. But number one, you don't want to lose and have to go and not play for 2 weeks. It's horrible. It just feels horrible. So it really means a lot, I think, for the psyche of this team a little bit. Not that they will fall apart, but then I think then they would get back that air of, hey, look, hey, we're better. I mean, we're pretty good, right? I think they kind of feel that way. But then I think if you go beat a top 20 team in BYU, and then you have 2 weeks to prepare for Texas, and you have to think this will be week 7. These guys need a break. You take that break, you get relaxed, you come back. The coaches don't have to worry about getting you up because UT is coming to town. So that week would be great preparation. Man, I think this would set them up for a run that, may be memorable. You remember what's in November. So hopefully that's what's setting up here.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Paul, anything? Yep. JJ, Greg, JJ Joe, former Baylor quarterback, color analyst, Baylor Radio. JJ, we appreciate you as always. 2:30 the kickoff, or just after that, Baylor and Brigham Young. Our pregame tomorrow will be at 12 o'clock from here inside the studio. 12:30. Well, inside the studio, 101 Elm and also MLK. When we come back, we're not